All the water that's on the planet now is the same water that was on the planet from the beginning. So this river, this water, is an accumulation of things that are very old.
The Columbia River is the life cord of the Pacific Northwest. That's true if you look at it 12,000 years ago, or if you look at it today. It has, in its draining of the Columbia River Basin, the most dynamic resource in the region, flowing water. The river is more than just a single main stem course or current. The Columbia River is an enormous funnel that brings the snow-charged smaller streams into larger and larger tributaries, funneling through the Columbia River Gorge to the Pacific.
Well, the function of a pilot, any pilot, is to safely guide a ship through a hazardous area where the ship's crew don't have the local knowledge and the experience to safely take their ships. What makes the Columbia River Bar as notorious as it is the fact that you have a major river, the second largest river in North America, meeting the large ocean swells which are produced by storms coming across the North Pacific. The result is two freight trains crashing into each other as the ocean and the river meet on the bar, and that's exactly where we're taking our ships.
Most of this that we've got here is what we call tide slop. It's the ebb tide pushing against the ocean. We're on our way out to take a pilot off an outbound vessel that's going out to wherever. Find a smoother spot than what we've got to work in.
I made a miscalculation of judgment getting off and kind of caught the rail of the daughter boat on the shin. Straightened my shin a little bit. But that's all part of the job. We all know that.
There weren't any bar pilots in 1792 when Captain Robert Gray crossed the bar, but he came for the same reason that today's freighters come, for trade.
We found this to be a large river of fresh water, up which we steered.
Oh, we're sampling the Young's Bay commercial catch here. And this is a Chinook salmon. And we take scales and weight, length off of it. And we raise fish here in these net pens. And for the sole purpose of being harvested. Who knows? We have to, we put the fish out there and then we hope that Mother Nature will take care of them once they get out in the ocean.
Yep, that's all there is. We gotta fight the seals for them.
We live in it, in its echo. That is the question, and what it asks is a breath, forming its words. There on the opposite century, here on this seamless shore, this abundance.
My great-grandfolks were born here and lived here all their lives. They lived right on the click of that river. So when I was a small kid, I'd go up there and watch some of my elders up there. They'd be pulling out fish just as fast as they could put their net in and out of the water. Towards around July, the fish would be in a slack period. We used to move back home, Topmish Valley, and we had a truck and we used to contract hauling potatoes. And then from there we'd move back. That's when we'd move to Celilo. All the tribes from all the different Northwest Territory would come there and do their fishing. And there was so much fish, it was easy to catch 3.5 ton, maybe even 4 ton a day. And that was from morning daylight till sunset when the chief would come out and wave his arms and call everybody, and everybody had to quit fishing.
An Indian chief takes a last look at a spectacle that's been going on for 100 years, but soon will be history. Jalilo Falls on the Columbia River will soon be underwater. A huge new dam has been built at the Dales, downstream from the falls.
After the falls was first flooded, all the people that used to depend on that every year, that time come around, well, they couldn't go no more. It was just a loss.
Welcome aboard the Dalles Dam Portage Railroad. The Dalles Dam is the longest dam in the United States, spanning 1.5 miles. It is also in the shape of a backwards letter Z. We are soon approaching a petroglyph up here. This petroglyph is about 5,000 years old. They put this on this pedestal upside down and didn't realize it till 25 years later, and they decided to leave it that way, so today it is an upside down turtle.
Today's Columbia is not a natural river for salmon. We're really looking at a river that's been turned into a series of lakes. It's an engineered river. It's a river in which, hour by hour, the amount of water released from each of the reservoirs is controlled.
January 10, 1811. Many reflections came to my mind. A new world was, in a manner, before us, and my object was to be at the Pacific Ocean before the month of August.
David Thompson was the most traveled of the fur men. By 1812, he had mapped the entire Columbia River, and his maps are so accurate that portions of them are used well into the 1950s.
July 3rd. We, in number 8 men with 2 Sampoil Indians, set off on a voyage down the Columbia River to explore this river in order to open out a passage for the interior trade with the Pacific. South 78 east, 1 1/4 miles tied together, covered with mats of slight rushes, a sufficient loose earth and stones, dangerous as the least thing loosens them and they roll with impetuosity to the river.
The Indians have in no case obeyed the command to multiply and replenish the earth, and they cannot stand in the way of others in doing so.
There is probably more danger in going down the River Columbia to Vancouver than the whole journey across the mountains.
The question always arose in my mind, can this section of the country ever be inhabited, unless these mountains shall be brought low, and these valleys shall be exalted?
Jackhammer John was a jackhammer man, born with a jackhammer in his hand. Lord, Lord, and he had them jackhammer blues. I built your roads and your buildings too, and I'm gonna build a dam or two. Lord, Lord, well, I got them jackhammer blues.
Here's a town of a freight rainfall 7.5 inches. In this town, there were two friends, a newspaper editor and a lawyer, Rufus Woods and William Clapp. Billy Clapp had an idea. There was the Grand Coulee, the dry bed once used by the Columbia, now just an empty chasm. Use it, he told Woods, to store water from the Columbia, push back the river with a dam, and get water power at the same time. His friend said, "Billy, you've got it." To block this river from its deep bed to its highest flood, they had to pour in so much concrete and steel that the dam became the largest structure built by man in all his history.
We had a beautiful way of life. We were rich. The dam made us poor. The way they treated us, they tried to make us less than human.
Grand Coulee Dam came online in 1941, just before the United States entered World War II. Grand Coulee Dam, it could be said, fueled the Pacific Northwest's wartime industries. But by 1943, 80% of that power from Grand Coulee was going to one place. The Columbia River became the most irradiated river in North America, and Hanford has become one of the most dangerous places on the surface of the globe.
Well, the Columbia River is life to the Columbia Basin area. Without the water, this area is just a desert. People think the American farmer is a person that wears his hat backwards. He gets up in the morning, milks the cows, feeds the chickens, and slops the pigs, and that's a misconception. America wants food cheap. To have food cheap, we have to do things on a grand scale at a very low cost. Where else in the world can you pull in and get a full meal deal for $2.99? Won't happen.
California and Arizona, I make all your crops. And it's north up to Oregon, together your hops. Dig the beets from your ground, cut the grapes from your vine, to set on your table your light sparkling wine. Green pastures of plenty, some dry desert ground, from the Grand
Unless these mountains shall be brought low, and these valleys shall be exalted.
And from agriculture, there are chemicals. From industry, there are chemicals. From the Hanford Nuclear Reservation, there are nuclides.
We had a beautiful way of life. The dam made us poor.
America wants food cheap.
South 78 east, 1 1/4 mile, rapid current.
This landscape of eastern Washington is truly a product of water. Everything we see here, and you have these stark, these plateaus, coulees, it's a product of the floods. The river is many things to many people. I would think the river is almost a mirror. I mean, it will reflect back what you see when you look at it. If you look at the river and you think, gee, you know, the fish are being stopped by the dams on this river. You'll see the river as a struggle, as a battle, as an issue. 6 million years this river has flowed through this very course. 6 million years, what a record.
So the Columbia River is in charge. The flood in 1948, the flood in 1964, the flood in 1996. The building of the dams did not end the floods. The building of the dams changed the floods.
This is one of the last really major spawning areas of wild fish, so it's a really highly valued resource.
An egg right there. An egg right there. How about that?
Several years back, they lowered the water on here during a time when the fish are moving out of the gravel, and it killed a bunch of fish. So as a consequence of that, we went through several years of studies, put a lot of effort into it. We looked at discharge rates from the hydro project, and every year we've been going back and along the bar to document where the spawning sites are. It's an agreement that was made through a whole bunch of agencies and tribes.
We live like this. Our breath over the river's edge, reason collecting at the changing waterline, where only a vague mark forms between promise and possibility.